No problem. Sorry for the delays.
No worries. There we go. Now we're live, so we can welcome Mr. Zagarino. Is that how you pronounce it? Because I've only seen it written down anywhere.
Zagarino.
I've been saying it right since the 90s. I'm so pleased. I was hoping Gareth would ask first.
Yeah, that's funny.
I've only living in Wales, you never get the names right. But yeah. Well, thank you.
So that's good. I get that with my surname sometimes. I get people asking how to pronounce it. It's only 5 letters.
Yeah, I like Andrew, I like the artwork behind both of you guys.
Good, thank you.
Very nice.
There are VHS behind all these. I'm just plugging the book endlessly, so there's more tapes up there.
It's funny that now I run an outdoor movie business and we use Blu-ray. And we
fantastic.
We get the Blu-ray from Netflix. And Netflix now, the end of September, is going to stop Blu-rays altogether.
Yes, I heard they're going to stop sending discs out, finally.
That is crazy, right?
It only seems like 5 minutes ago they started doing that in the first place, you know.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. And 2 years ago, they wrote an article saying how much money they were making on Blu-ray still, but it didn't happen. So
that's a shame.
It's strange. I'm biased though. I'm a physical media person. I am biased.
I want to hold it and touch it.
It's the tangible aspect. I like holding and touching stuff. I mean, I'm still even like buying physical video games, but the other thing that doesn't sit well with me is the privacy issue. I don't like companies I pay money to knowing what I watch.
Yeah,
it feels a little intrusive. I mean, I know there's worse things that people could do, but it's like I don't always appreciate having things visible that are suggested to me. So I've got 2 children who are 8 and 11, and if I'm watching horror movies or something like that, I don't want something really inappropriate to get suggested to me next.
Yeah, I know. I have 2 young ones too, and I have a 25-year-old that's an actor in Los Angeles right now, and he's on the picket line right now dealing with AI.
Absolutely.
And dealing and all the streaming, because it was when we used to do the stuff, and like you're saying, it was tangible and it was video, and how many went out and how many units sold, and if you had a piece of the unit or something. Now it's like in cyberspace, nobody knows what the studios are making, how much it's streaming, how many people are watching them. So the Ann Drescher was saying, I saw in the interview the day that they set us up to get through all the to the big summer blockbusters, and then they never came through. So
yeah, it's a complicated one. I mean, in my day job, I'm not allowed to say what it is, not because it's super exciting, but I'm not allowed. But I'm not allowed to say who it's for. But I'm a copywriter, and I make bespoke content for an organization, and AI is frightening because I have AI tools available to me that can do my job.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's see how this works. Let's put a prompt in. Oh, that's a blog post that's 500 words long. It's unexpected.
It's Elon Musk was talking about that he takes 3 days off a year, and he's wondered, like, when AI starts, there's half of this time wasted that could be done with AI. It's going to be in the next 18 months to 2 years. It's going to be scary.
So I think we should hold on to these things as long as we can. So things with a human element.
Yeah, no, I have a stack of VHS myself and probably hundreds of DVDs. But no subjects off limits here. So whatever questions you guys have, whether it's personal or the acting or we've done before, I'm game for all.
Well, we won't keep you any longer than necessary, but
no problem.
Did it ever occur to you that in the 90s, just using my main frame of reference from when I was introduced to your work, did it ever occur to you that there would be a teenager from the north of England, 4,000 miles away, eagerly awaiting the next Project Shadowchaser or the next thing that you were in? I've been on Gareth's channel before and talked to Cynthia Rothrock, and that was a huge moment. So I've watched so many of her movies, and it's the same with yourself.
Yeah.
I associate your name with a very positive aspect of a very troubled time of life.
Yeah,
so I get it. I would imagine you have people like that as well. Who would be your people that are like your go-to people that always raised a smile when you saw their name on a poster or a cover?
It's funny because when I trained in LA, I trained in the same gym where Sylvester Stallone trained, and like he really helped and took me under his wing before, when I was just starting. Like when he was doing Rocky IV, I was friends with Dolph Lundgren. I did his exercise video, and like when Sly was at MGM Studios and he was choreographing the fights, he would invite me to go watch. And, like a young kid, you're so eager to watch Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
So, to see somebody like Sylvester Stallone, I have never met anybody with such a work ethic as he has. He still acts like he hasn't made his first dollar. And the guy would work out all day. He'd have a trainer killing him in the gym. Then he'd work a 14-hour day, get a couple hours sleep. But I think probably he was, my favorite actor in the world is Robert Redford, but my famous action actor for me is Stallone, just because I could personally see the kind of effort that he put in. Like there was 100% was never 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. This guy has it all and could just lay back on his laurels and not do anything. And his work ethic, I've never seen. I've been around, obviously, as old as I am. I've been around a lot of actors. I work with Charles Durning. I work with Charles Napier. I work with so many different actors over the year. But the amount of dedication that Stallone puts in, and probably still exactly does, is amazing.
So that's lovely to hear.
He was sort of my go-to guy. But everybody like De Niro, Pacino, Robert Redford. There's a couple people, Richard Strauss. There's a lot of people that I really, really liked.
This is something that personally, when I'm watching action movies, sci-fi movies, or anything, movies that get derided or put down, oh no, that's just junk, it's the same old action movie, or if it gets put down, I still try and find some entertainment value in it, because the people that worked on it have put a heck of a lot of effort in front and behind the camera. There's so much that goes on. Is just crazy. And just to have any title, good or bad, just dismissed out of hand, no, it's junk. It dismisses the work of hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah, the thing is too, is that if people that appreciate the lower budget movies and stuff like that, like you're out and you're shooting the movie in 25 days, 20 days. I think Rocky was shot in 30 days, the first movie, believe it or not. But when you're doing that, you're working with the script the whole time, and it isn't like Tom Cruise or somebody who every take is perfect, and if not, they go watch the movie and they retake it. You're doing it on the fly as best you can do it, and that's going to film. You don't have 100 takes, and then you don't go back to the studio and watch it, and 4 months later go redo it or fix it now with AI or whatever you want to do. You have to live with it. So the hardest part was, the lack of good content in the scripts was always the part. You're trying to make it better as you're going, and that sort of got to me, as they sort of all started to blend together a little bit. And it's very hard to build a great house on a very mediocre foundation. So,
but it's visible that a lot of efforts still went, even if the material wasn't as great as it could have been. That it's still, stuff got finished and had like an understandable ending, and that sort of thing didn't just stop. It brings to mind the live action Masters of the Universe film. You mentioned Dolph earlier. And I understand that it was Canon, wasn't it? Canon Studios. They were going out of business as they were filming it. And in the last the battle between He-Man and Skeletor, they turned the lights off while they were shooting, so they had to get red and blue colored lights. That's why at the end of the film, the climactic sword fight between the two of them looks like Star Wars. It looks like they've been lit with lightsabers because they ran out of money. It's incredible to me that these things get made. I mean, I've worked on some very tiny budget things, zero budget things, and in lockdown I made a movie with my mobile phones and some friends because we were bored.
That's so cool.
That was fun. It was like a horror mockumentary. So all my friends played people being interviewed, and I did some like Blair Witch style stuff in between it all. But even just that was hours and hours and hours of work for something that came out at 76 minutes. So to see these even low budget productions, to see them approached as big budget things, that's how I always saw your stuff in the 90s when I was being introduced to it, because it was in video stores next to Independence Day or anything huge. I saw it as the same thing, and I noticed that even rewatching them now, rewatched Night Siege recently, and they're still approached like far bigger films, and that gives them a really good atmosphere to me. I really appreciate it. So thank you for your hard work.
No, I thank you. Give me 1 second. 1 second.
No
worries, man.
Well, enjoy the view.
Can't stand that your lighting is better than mine. You guys had all the shit figured out. Yeah, you know, like the guerrilla filmmaking, I don't know. I just, as a kid, I watched movies when I would date girls in high school. Like they go, if you go out with Frank, you're going to a movie. That's it. I've never smoked or drank in my life, anything. And so that would be my thing. My escape was going to movies. So like, you know, the first time I saw Rocky, you know, when I'm a kid, you'll never forget it. But I used to love, like you're saying, the guerrilla filmmaking was great. I mean, one time we shot on an aircraft carrier in New York City before 9/11, and we all got outside, and I had a fighter helmet and everything else. We all went on the boat with like overcoats. The guy had a 35mm camera. We dropped them and walked inside the yellow lines and walked down, and then we met on a street in Manhattan before we got caught. So it's always a lot better to shoot it, get it in the can, and then, you know, easier to apologize than ask permission.
Yeah.
Like Roger Corman jumping out of the van, shooting in places he didn't have a permit and jumping back in the van, and everyone's just piled into the van.
Absolutely. As long as it's on film, you love it. Go.
So absolutely fantastic. What was your path to acting then? Sorry, I will let you speak eventually. I'm sorry, mate. What was your path to acting then?
Been chasing me for 7 months. I mean, I had a couple of surgeries, and I go, oh my God, I felt so bad. I said, I have to get this done. And I sincerely.
Can you tell I'm excited?
It wasn't ego that got in the way. I could tell you that. When I started doing TV, my dad did TV commercials. I did TV commercials in Florida. I grew up in Miami, Florida. So all the people from New York at BBD&O and the big advertising agencies would come to Florida, and they'd shoot TV commercials. So, you know, I did Pepsi. I mean, years ago, I did a Pepsi commercial. Matthew Modine was an extra, you know. And then I go up for Vision Quest, and in Vision Quest, the wrestling movie, it was between me and this guy who played Shoot. They kept me in Washington for 7 days, and they couldn't decide. I did not get the part after 7 days. But I walk up there, Matthew Modine's a lead, and I remember when he was like an extra in the Pepsi commercial, begging to go to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So I just, you know, I'm sort of probably like you guys. I just always love movies. I still do. I mean, and now it's really weird because in the little town that I live in now, they just closed the theater because the streaming, they're not getting the people. And I have 4 boys. I have a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a 30-year-old. But my older boys wrote a whole thing on their Instagram writing like, this is part of our childhood, working at the movie theater, going to the movies on Friday. Like this thing had closed. It was so unbelievably emotional for them when they heard that that theater was going to close. It was around the corner from us. So, you know, we live in a different world, you know. But I love.
What's it like to make that transition though to the other side?
Just like you guys, is, you know, I just love movies since I was a kid. Nothing could be better than a Friday night going out to a movie. And now that's almost gone now.
I love that.
Theater is sort of gone.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's a shame. I mean, I've got a couple. There's I live in Nottingham, and there's big multiplexes in town and things like that. But there's a little independent cinema near us that shows some world cinema, things like that. There's an indie one in town called the Broadway, which is art cinema and world cinema and things like that. And it's nice to have those around, but there are even a couple of little places that just show old stuff.
That's cool.
And I really appreciate that. It's we used to have, apparently, little fact for you, Nottingham used to have 40 cinemas, over 40 cinemas just in the city centre. Wow. And that's like in the 50s. Yeah. And a lot of the buildings are still there in the city centre. You can go and find all these buildings. But what I found was that what I found interesting was that a lot of them closed because of the march of technology, because movies were in 4:3 at one point. Yes, and when they went to widescreen, a lot of places couldn't fit them.
Yep.
And closed down. It is strange, that march of technology. It's been there for decades. It's not a new thing. It's something that the industry has always had to face, I think.
Yeah, it's I mean, the technology is a strange thing. When I was watching 60 Minutes, one of our news shows, they were talking about AI, and the guy goes, what is with AI, what is going to be the future? And he goes, the 70-year-old Tom Cruise is going to be able to direct the 30-year-old Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And then you're going to lose, AI is going to lose writers, because if you see the kind of stuff AI is writing with the emotion and with the flavor of a person's, so then you got AI there. Then you won't need backgrounds and crews, because all that'll be generated and it'll look as real as anything else, because the AI can figure out all the shadows and everything of where something would be. So I think in the next 5 years, hence why Screen Actors Guild is striking right now, because, you know, when you get somebody's likeness, do you own it? Could somebody take one of my movies and take my voice and just recreate you and do another movie? And then who would say that the guy who bought it, did he own all rights for in perpetuity? You don't know.
There was the story recently that James Earl Jones, as when he did when Lucasfilm did the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, he did some lines for that as Vader. And Hayden Christensen was in it as Vader as well. But some of the lines were done by Respeecher, the AI tool. And
Really?
Afterwards, I understand that James Earl Jones sold his voice to Lucasfilm for a sum of money, so they can, in perpetuity, I can't speak now, use his voice as Vader, but created by AI.
Yeah, we did it.
It's really odd.
We did a video game with. I did a video game with him called Command and Conquer. That was a huge video game at times, you know.
Yes.
So that was a lot of fun. It was very strange because it was so much dialogue and all green screen. I never even met him, but we were, you know, back and forth on the final product it looks. But it was a stressful process.
Well, when we go and see that.
Sorry.
Sorry, mate.
All the talk of AI. And how many times have you played an Android?
Oh my God!
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, could you imagine if AI shows its face and it's got bleached blonde spiky hair?
Yeah, right. That was John Ayers. John Ayers, who did the first Shadowchaser creation, and him and I became very good friends. He is definitely a cut above all the directors in that genre, and a guy who truly cares. And we became friends, but he did really a great job.
I was going to say, I was going to get the hair
How
done.
much oil did you get on each film?
I don't know if I could get it straight up anymore.
I can't. There's nothing here. Did you get through a lot of oil on those films when you were very glistening in a lot of those films and a lot of the covers?
That was a daily.
That must have been quite slippery.
That was a daily occurrence. Yeah, if it had a slip and slide, it would have been a lot more fun.
Yeah, because
I spoke to Chris Barry. Sorry, Gareth.
I know he's going to say something. Go right ahead.
I spoke to.
Go ahead, Chris Barry.
Oh, I was going to say I spoke to Chris Barry from Red Dwarf, the UK sci-fi comedy show, and mentioned a scene where he was oiled up, and said, "What was that like being shooting under that?" And says it was all right for the first couple of takes, but that scene took 10 hours, and by the end of it, the set was covered in dust and sand, and there was just fudge. It was just covered in this thick, dusty fudge that was all over it.
Yeah, one of the Shadowchasers.
Your turn, Gareth. You get in there, mate.
One of the Shadowchasers that I did with John, you know, the prosthetics. I was in prosthetics for 8 hours. You know, it all looks great on paper till you have to do it. You know, and then you're going, oh my, you know, 8 hours in a makeup chair, you know, and then shooting another 8 or 10 hours. It was, you know, these people who do the prosthetics, it's miserable.
Yeah. So yeah, your first film was with John Sayles as director.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Your first film was with John Sayles as a director.
Boy, you got your research right. Yeah, I went and auditioned for that. That was fun. That was fun. That was in Florida. I was actually in Florida, and to tell you how funny that was, like I was just doing a lot of TV commercials and stuff. So there was an audition, and the audition was in Miami Beach, and I was going out. I was obviously in Florida. You do a lot of boating. My dad raced sailboats, and we had motorboats and stuff. So I'll never forget. We took my motorboat up to Miami Beach. I took the bathing suit off, threw clothes on, and walked over to the hotel. I think he was at the Fontainebleau, and went up there and did the audition, thinking nothing of it, you know. And then you end up getting the part. And so the ones you don't give a shit about, you end up, you know, working on what you care so about. You get close on, you know. So.
Nice. Because you played a character called Conan, and you played a barbarian, but you haven't been Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, but exactly. Very good. Very good.
Because I was just saying,
you've been waiting to say that for some time, haven't you, Gary?
I have. I've been saying, I got a joke here.
Together, very well. I like that.
But yeah, Barbarian Queen with a lot of ladies in states of undress. But
and you know, Alana Clarkson, the lead in that movie, got murdered by
yes, Phil Spector.
Yeah, Phil Spector. Crazy.
Oh, God. I'd forgotten about that. That film is on so many streaming services at the moment. It's all over the place.
Such a nice.
A lot of the free ones.
What a horrible demise.
I'm sure.
Do you have specific memories of working on things like Barbarian Queen? If someone brings it up, do you have like a specific memory that it just brings up straight away?
Yeah, I stayed on a hotel where there's a golf course and didn't bring any golf clubs.
It was staring out at it for ages.
You know, it's funny because the greatest thing I take away from it is the people I met in the locations that I was at. And you're not a tourist. Like I did over 2 years in South Africa for New Image. And the people that I met over the time, whether it was on the golf course or whether you were on a tour in safari, and in Argentina when you were there, just the culture and stuff, you almost forget about the movie, and when you're all said and done, and think more about the experience of it, of the people that you met. So that, if anything had to be out of the acting that I take away from all of it after all the years and a ton of traveling is meeting those people and opening up your horizons, because a lot of people are born in one place or never leave the United States or don't understand so that is really good. I mean, I was in Indonesia, and I'm with one of the makeup artists, and so you could have 2 different families. So he was married with 2 totally different families, and at night he'd go to this family, and then 2 days later he'd go home to the other family. And you're seeing all this melting pot in Indonesia of all these different religions, and you're seeing how they all get along, and you go, wow, this is in our country, we're as divided as we've ever been. And then you're seeing a country like this where you have all these religions, people are getting along, so.
But you've also filmed in North Korea.
It must be nice to soak all that up.
Yeah, North Korea was quite the experience. They wrote on the internet that I was put in jail, which never happened.
Right. Yeah, I did see that.
But they did watch everything I did, and it's strange to see communism in that situation. I mean, literally, like you're in the hotel and you want to see a doctor, and everybody's out picking kimchi because everybody has to be even. And like, you'll come home at 3 a.m. There'll be 80-year-old ladies out sweeping what we would call a freeway or an expressway. And the next night you would come home and there'd be a street cleaner doing the same thing. And to wrap your brain around, they would say, at that time, Kim Jong-il, they'll say that he will never die. He's a supreme being. And now he's died. His son died, and they're on the other one. But literally, like it was just crazy when, when they're born, they tell you the great leader gives you the air that you breathe. And if you're born with that, and that's in your life. So, and I met some great people there. I met people that had lost part of their family to South Korea and had never seen them again. And you talk about tears flowing down a guy's face when he talks about part of his family is in South Korea. And at that point, there was no travel back and forth at all. And so that, that was, the film was the worst film I ever did, the worst conditions we ever had. I mean, you're in a hotel with no heat. Your room has heat. The hallways are 30 degrees. And you're acting with Italian actors that they're going to redub later. But I will tell you, as a life experience, it was incredible. As a movie, I probably shouldn't have done it.
It must, when you look at your filmography, they must bring back certain like areas or experiences like that straight away, like a photo album.
They really do. You'll see a scene, or my son here will Google something, and I'll see it and say, wow, I remember when I would jump out of the helicopter, this person that I met there, or the director and his family, and certain every location had its its thing that you would be, and especially in some of the countries like Indonesia and South Africa and Korea, that it was a life-changing experience. I mean, once you've seen stuff like that,
Because the first Shadowchaser, was that filmed in London?
Yes, it was. We did Pinewood Studios.
Yeah.
And I was there. I was friends with John Lloyd, the tennis player. So I stayed in Kew Gardens, but he got me to center court in Wimbledon. Quite the experience. I mean, that was something I'll never forget. And the people at Pinewood were fantastic. It was a great. I would love to. That is a place I'd love to go. London was so fantastic. I love the underground where you can be. I don't like a lot of crowds. I go in. I'm an hour and a half from New York City, but I don't go in a lot. I was actually in Brooklyn last night, but that is so nice, because the way the underground works, you could be living out in the country and have a perfect country life, and then hit the underground and be right in the middle of town. And everything, So that was really cool. People were great.
What do your kids make of all the things you've done?
The older ones are a lot more in tune than the younger ones, because with a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, it's so far removed. But the older ones were around when I was doing a lot of traveling and moving and stuff, and like. To find out how funny it is, my 25-year-old last week is on the picket line, and he meets a guy named Grant Kramer. Well, they're talking for an hour, and he says, "Oh, my dad was in action films." It turns out this guy was one of my guys that went on auditions and knew this, and now he's a very successful producer. And he just could not believe he's standing on a picket line next to my son when he heard my son Zagarino, the last name. So it's just, it's just crazy, you know, but they liked it. And, you know, I'm super open about the mediocrity of the films. And that's probably why I don't do them anymore. And I sort of moved away because you felt like you made that film 100 times. And, you know, you make, you know, there's different things. I probably should have made 5 or 6 or 7 action films and then not done anymore. But I was married and I had kids, and somebody offers you that paycheck and you're paying your more like anybody else. But if I had never got married and I was single, I probably would have had a different acting career because I could have held out. Because once you get pigeonholed into this is the B action star, you know. And Avi Lerner, who owns New Image, I'll never forget, and Danny Dimbord, who did all their sales for you, I'll never forget. You know, I said, you know, I need some actors to act against because it's like a tennis game. You know, I need to have actors that are good, but they can hit the ball back and stuff. They go, Frank, if I pay another actor besides you, do you think South Korea is going to pay any more money? And I didn't. I sort of know the business, so it didn't bother me whatsoever because I get the business end. It's about, you know, it's about making money, you know, and it's about, you know, they make a business decision. Everything, you know, when they would do my movies, they could go through every territory and know exactly what they would pay.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'd love to do it again. You know, I would love to act again. And actually, my son's agent wants to represent me this year, and I may start doing readings because when we went on readings, you drive across town, you sit in a room with 5 people, you walk in and do one, and that's it. Now they do readings on their phone or on the video.
Oh, yeah.
10 or 12, you give them what you're capable of, and they hire you a lot of times off that tape. So this winter, I'm going to start auditioning again just because, you know, I still have a couple bad guys left in me, I think.
I was going to say, what sort of thing would you like to do? Would you like to go back to doing some like action type roles or genre roles, or is there anything else that you've not done that you would like to dip your feet into?
You know, I'd like to not do the action thing, but if it was, you know, it's all the quality of the piece. You know, I would do 3 lines if it was with somebody good and a good actor, just to work. I don't need to do it to make a living. So now I'd probably be better because it's not life or death for me, which it was then. You know, I probably cared too much. My acting would probably be better now. I mean, I see some of my movies. There's a movie called No Exit. So did you ever see that movie, No Exit?
Yep.
Oh, I caught you guys. And I think that was one of my better movies because there was a chance to use an accent. There was a chance to act with some good actors. So it's funny because when I show my kids some stuff, I pull that up on YouTube and they go, wow, that was really good. I said, because, you know, you're dealing with New York actors that have studied in the theater. And so that was good as opposed to, you know, take your shirt off and kill another 20 guys. So it sort of got to where the mediocrity was like, how many more of these am I going to make? You know, it's like
you need some roles where you don't just have to do a monotone voice as the android or anything like that. Yeah, you can intone.
And Shadowchaser was great. Believe me, it gave me the exposure. It did great on video. You know, that was one of the better experiences working with John. But then 1, 2, and 3, and then they just, you know, it's like anything else. You get out of bed and doing the exact same thing.
Okay. Yeah, because none of them are connected in any way.
Any questions in the chat?
No, God forbid they actually flowed together.
Yeah,
no, they go all over the place, those movies.
Burnt to a crisp.
Well, you know, the thing was, obviously, like I said, it's always business because they can take a couple shots of me with the hair looking like the android and sell it to every foreign territory, and they think they're getting Shadowchaser 2 or 3 or 4, which have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because they also had different names as well, didn't they? It's like Ryan.
What? Sirius. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like working with the Italian directors compared to the American ones?
Enzo, the first movie I did, was phenomenal. They were really cool. I loved working with the Italians. It was, I mean, and then you get to go to Italy to do some of the dubbing. So what the hell's wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't beat that trip. But the Italians were good to work with. They were very, very creative. Like when you do a low budget movie, it's like amazing. Like they would do a tracking shot and literally have the camera in a market, in a push cart for the market. Like they didn't have the tracks, they didn't have anything. So their ingenuity was unbelievable. You know, how they could make it work, how they could make stuff happen. It was great.
Okay. Yeah.
How did you find moving to do Command and Conquer differed from doing movie work? I mean, I guess it was all like ADR, like in a studio.
Yeah,
but,
you know,
did you find it was a different experience?
it was really tough because it was so much dialogue so quickly. I think maybe like doing a soap opera or something, because they flew me to Vegas, and like you shot it all in like a day and a half or 2 days, and it was page after page after page, and you're not acting with anybody. So the technique was a little different, something I wasn't used to. I know the movie, I know it did phenomenal as a game, but it was a little different. You know, you're acting, and every actor goes through that, but I wasn't used to that. I was used to acting with actors, not acting with a dot on the wall, and doing line after line. And the lines, because it was in the game, the lines have to be very specific. You couldn't ad lib or change anything because the game was played, and what you were saying had to do with the game, so it had to be really, really specific.
Wasn't that after doing the last movie you did? I think understand it was a TV movie, wasn't it? Or am I missing one out? It's Armstrong.
Yeah, I did Armstrong. Yep, I did Armstrong. That we shot in Bulgaria. And the funniest part is
What was it
now my
like
wife
walking away from it all after that?
Funny story, really. The funny story is my wife is from Bulgaria, from Sofia, where we shot that movie. Now, my wife is 24 years younger than I am. So when I was there doing that movie, I think she was like 13. I did not meet her there. I met her in New York, but it's so strange to think that the difference, the difference of like now she was from the place that I shot the movie with Menachem Golan. And Menachem Golan was one of the few directors that was nominated for an Academy Award for or for the film. I think it was Radon and Tebby or whatever, or the side. But I worked with him, and he was really good to work with. He was a ball buster, but he was a really good guy to work with. And it wasn't a matter of walking away. You're almost like after 9/11, everything changed. The action films, sort of died. 9/11, the action films in the lower budget. Like I did a movie with the guy from Renegade, Lorenzo Lamas.
Oh yeah,
was probably the last movie.
Oh right, yes.
I did a movie with Lorenzo Lamas, and like you have a guy like that who had 2 hit TV series doing a low budget action film because everybody was trying to do something. So the market sort of dried up. When I did Shattered Lives with my first wife, that movie, I financed the whole thing myself, and we were looking at getting Germany for 300,000 out of Germany. And when it was all said and done, I finished the movie the week of 9/11, and the movie went out for sale, and we didn't get 20,000 out of Germany when the projection was 250,000. So it was just the timing was unbelievable. That's really when I ended up moving to New York and starting another business, because I go, most of my colleagues and everything were either not working or were selling cars or selling real estate, because they're just the low. But I don't know why 9/11 did it, but the low budget industry or low budget action film just lost its whole push after 9/11. It was very strange. It was a very very dead time,
Okay, so yeah, that's a shame.
There did seem to be a move away from like big spectacle action movies or things with a lot of violence in at that point. I think there was a drive to make things a little less. It was a sore time for a long time. So I think they were trying to not shy away from, but just kind of not focus on things that were so violent for a while. It was a very strange period. But how did it feel to walk away from all that and start anew after acting?
Yeah, I don't know. Some of it was liberating because, now I have an outdoor movie business now, and we're the most successful people in New York. We do about 150 movies in 3 months. And like I said, I always love movies. Now I go and I do a movie in Long Beach for the Long Beach Film Festival, and we have 800 people on the beach. And, I have, 14 guys working and stuff. And I saw it and just loved it. I said, this is great, outdoor movies. But it wasn't like, I never had and everybody said, but I never had an ego about it. It wasn't like I cared what some of these movies I've never seen. Some of the movies, the one I did with Lorenzo Lamas, I never saw the movie. But walking away, some of it was strange, and some of it was, it was weird that you're not doing it anymore. The auditions, the camaraderie, the traveling and stuff. But after a while, you want to be in one place and spend time with your family, not being in hotels all the time. But it was a great run, and I love the process. But like everybody else, it's you act for free and you get paid to wait. So the downtime when I'm obsessive compulsive with my time and getting things done and doing stuff, and films will be hard. You go on location, you don't work for 7, 8, 9 days, for your part to come around on the script. But so that that was a little weird. It's nice to have a business now where you determine the income and somebody else is not determining everything for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you've also dallied with directing 3 films.
Yeah, no, I would love to have done it. I think the funniest part is Spiker, the movie that I shot here in New York, that I raised the financing, directed, and then Jerry Lively, one of my best friends, who's a director of photography, who did Hellraiser and Warlock. Jerry's one of my best friends. We speak every third or fourth day now. He came here and helped me do it, and it was a horror movie, and it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun to direct, because when you're doing a low budget movie, you got to make it happen. When you're doing a big budget movie, if it says the helicopter comes in from down from the sky and lifts a Mercedes up in the air, and the Mercedes flips through the air and lands in somebody's pool, on a studio film, the director says action, and it happens in front of him because he's got the best people in every department. In a low budget movie, you need to figure out how to make it happen as the director. Whether you're going to get a helicopter, what you're going to do, locations, you need to figure out. I mean, I made that movie for very, very little money, and called in every favor. But that's one thing I liked about low budget movies, a camaraderie of everybody putting their heads together to make it happen, because it's not just about money. If somebody did a studio film, you have the best costume designer, the best special effects, the best stunt person. And if you're doing a studio movie as a director, and this incredible action scene reads, you have nothing to do with it until the day you walk in, and then you make these tweaks and changes. But when you call action, there's going to be, a Ferrari and 3 Mercedes and a helicopter and a bridge, and all the stunt guys have rehearsed it. You don't have to make it happen. If you took, I know they'll love this since I'm not working now anyhow, but if you took some of these A directors from Hollywood and you gave them 400,000 or so make a movie, they'd fall on their face.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest regret, when you talk about regrets, is that I didn't go to film school, because I truly believe if I went to film school, I would be directing A movies, because most of the people that I know were friends of friends, did student films with them, were friends from film school in Los Angeles, and they sort of came up together. So that would be something I wish I had done if I could wind the clock back.
Okay. So some questions here. Let's have a look. Bob McCall, also known as the Equalizer. What was it like to work with Martin Cove? Because you've done a few films with him.
Marty's a great guy, really good guy, professional. We got along great. Knows his work, knows his lines. I can't say enough about him. Cobra Kai's done well. He's done well. He's always still working. He was a great guy to work with. We really had a lot. We worked in Indonesia together. We worked on the first Shadowchaser together. He was really good to work with. Ultimate professional.
Because the Shadowchaser is a bit of a before Demolition Man, where a guy's frozen and comes out and has to fight the bad guy.
Yeah, Shadowchaser probably was the film that did the best of any movie I did. It did. It premiered on HBO in the US. It was like #1 on the video charts in the UK when it came out. So it really did well. It was a lot of fun. And John Ayers is a cut above. John Ayers is a guy who could go and do a studio film tomorrow. But it's it's the luck of the draw when you get that shot.
Yeah. Because you've done 2 films with.
Well, I for one am very grateful you did all these.
Let me tell you,
they were so fun.
That's what makes it worth it for me. That there are people out there, and I do get letters, and they track me down, because it's easy through my movie business and stuff to track me down. And I do get letters from fans all over the world in different spots, and letters. Can you do a picture? Can you sign it? Which I try to do every time. And that is the part that's really nice. Some of these people enjoyed the work that you did, because the work was hard. Some of these days, like you're not sitting with a caravan in there, and they call you out like you would on a studio film. Sometimes you're outside, it's 100 degrees. You're doing a 15-18 hour day. You only have the location one day. So the fact that effort went in, and there's people that enjoy it, that makes it worth it.
Yeah.
Could I ask? Sorry, man. Oh, it's straight to video. Hey, Rob.
Yeah, these are VHS legends themselves. So
I think Rob's got some of your movies in his store. Straight to Video is a guy called Rob and his buddy Chris, and they run a place called the 80's Video Shop, which has a screening room and a recreation of a 80s/90s video store, and a kid's bedroom recreated. It's even got Rob's original childhood bedding in there on the bed, and it's just this.
That is so cool.
There are guys out there all over the country here, like Rob, that really truly love this stuff. And I think you should go on Straight to Video podcast. He has the best podcast. Not to say that this isn't great. This is a great channel. But Straight to Video podcast is a great show.
So I know that you've done some of my other, like
He's
you,
really
I think
good.
you interviewed Sam Furstenberg.
Yeah, so you've done 2 films with him, haven't you? Blood Warriors and Operation Delta Force.
Yeah, great guy. He was a really good director to work with. Really fun guy. Really family oriented. That everything wasn't about the seriousness of the movie. Sam was so laid back. Like you'd be there one day and they can't get the location. He goes, we'll get it tomorrow. I mean, I always envied Sam Furstenberg because, like, when they say the better you handle stress, the longer you'll live. He made the 200 because he just lets it go.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
When I did the movie with him in Indonesia, I'll never forget. I'm reading. My first son was on the way, so that was that long ago. It was 30 years ago, and I'm reading a book about fathering and stuff like that. And he had at that time he had 2 or 3 daughters. But I'll never forget. He goes, the first one comes, you read every book, you do everything, you're all over it. The second one, by the third one, they could eat dirt and you wouldn't care. And now I'm on 4 and he's downstairs eating dirt.
Hopefully he's all right.
Yeah.
So you got Bob McCall. Armstrong and Warhead are 2 of his favorite films with Joe Lara.
Yep. Joe was really good. Joe and I got a long way and did a lot of work together. And he was a good actor. He was a really good actor. He really put a lot into it too. We had really, really good camaraderie. New Image used him a bunch also. So it was we were always going back and forth. Who would be the lead? Who would be the bad guy? That type of stuff. But it was a lot of fun. Warhead was good. They put some money into Warhead, and that was a fun movie to do. We shooting Warhead, we're doing a rehearsal scene, and this big prop plane that seats 35 people, 40 people, comes in down the runway, and then it turns around and it leaves. So on the rehearsal, we get out and we're walking around the propellers, and the pilot gets the rear wheel stuck in a ditch, so he gasses it a little bit, and the rear tail of the propeller comes across and hits me across the shoulders and launches me about 12 feet in the air and down. I went right to the hospital, and it was the closest I ever came to to breaking my neck. If it would have hit me in the neck, it would have killed me, but it hit me across the shoulders and just launched me. All this during a rehearsal. So, but there was that.
And they didn't even have the camera running.
No, the camera was not running. I'll tell you, thank God. And I mean, the people, we had these balaclavas on the face in this point, so you didn't see who it was.
Right.
But the people, the crew and everybody thought whoever got hit got killed. It was the worst accident ever. And I've done a lot of helicopters, a lot of my own stunts. That was the worst beating I ever took. And thank God we only had 1 day left to shoot after that, because I couldn't have gone any more than that.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
But the movie, they put a lot of money. They put a lot of money.
Did you still shoot after that?
I shot the next
morning.
morning.
On that last day, then?
Yeah, I shot the last day. But it was I couldn't breathe deep. I want to tell you that. I was in the hospital all night. Never got any sleep, and then we went out and shot the next day. But it was a scene sitting on a park bench with like a general having a dialogue scene. Okay. So I could just compose my stuff enough to get through it.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, you do so many dangerous things, and it's like, those are the ones like where, the hospital calls your wife and you're, in the emergency room, and, you were shooting that night, and then the panic sets in.
Yeah.
But, that was the closest I came to getting really. I've been hurt many times, but nothing that could have, ended it.
Glad you didn't get hurt.
What was your on-screen?
Not just because it'd be a very quiet night tonight. I mean,
the surgery would have been a little more difficult.
Yeah. What was your biggest on-screen stunt?
Say that again.
What was your biggest on-screen stunt?
I'd say in Indonesia, in No Mercy, that I had more balls than brains back then. When my wife saw it, she almost killed me. But I was with Jerry Lively, because I got into be director of photography on that movie, and there was a dam where they let the water in, this huge circular dam to level this lake, and the top of it was about 3 feet wide of concrete. So the helicopter comes down. I'm standing on the concrete with no safeties. The helicopter comes down. I step on the rung of the helicopter and grab the helicopter. No strap-ins, no safeties, no carabiners. I grab around the helicopter. We fly the helicopter from 1,000 feet down to a 15-foot ski boat, and I jump from the helicopter into the ski boat to start a fight scene. And then we did it. We did both. We did it once from the helicopter and once from the speedboat. That was, when I look back, that was definitely the most dangerous thing I ever did, because
Yeah.
you're in the middle of Indonesia. It isn't like there's a hospital around the corner, and there was no way to get safeties in and out. So like when you grab the helicopter, you know, where the doors go, the doors are out, you grab the helicopter around with your arms and then they come down. But they had a stunt guy try it, and 5 times he missed the boat. He couldn't, you know, because the cockpit's very small, and the helicopter's hovering it over, and then you got to jump into the boat. And it, you know, at that point it looked like a postage stamp, you know. So that was probably the hairiest stunt I ever did. And you see it, you know, in the movie, you see it once. We did it like 3 times, you know. So
what's going through your head when just before you
Yeah.
jump?
you know,
That's crazy.
like everything else, you know, you're trying to be as safe as you can, make sure you're in the right spot, and the adrenaline's pumping so hard that you're sort of a little bit, you're not thinking with common sense. I mean, my first wife saw that and said, we had a child at home and you jumped out of the boat, like, you know, you realize, you know, but you know, that's what happens when you're doing action films. You know, it was good. It was definitely scary, but it was a great, you know, it was great to do it. You know, I wouldn't do it now, I can tell you that.
I can't blame you. I can't blame you. And that's something that with action movies that you. Sorry, Gareth. I think I've got a bit of a lag. I do apologise.
There is a delay, isn't there? So, yeah,
there is a touch of a delay.
There is a little bit.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that, but I do think that when there's a lot of fight scenes and things, of course it's going to be choreographed. Of course, there's going to be health and safety involved and so on. But no matter how much of that is observed, you're going to get some bumps, aren't you? You're going to get bruised. You're going to get tired. It must really take it out of you when you're having to do multiple takes of things.
Yeah, I've been a workout fanatic. Like right now, I swim every day 1.5 miles at 6 a.m, and I have a full gym in my house here. So I was always in the cardio shape really well, and I choreographed most of my fight stuff. And like when I learned from Stallone and stuff how to choreograph it, I choreograph a lot of the fights. So it's sort of like a dance. If the other person is good, you sort of know the rhythms. You know, but obviously you're beat up because you'll slip or you'll fall or you'll take a hit that you weren't expecting to take. But I found the fight scenes. I love doing the fight scenes because the choreography would be so much fun to put a really good fight scene together. And most of them I got to choreograph myself because, you know, the stunt guys didn't know what I was capable of, you know, because there's certain punches and certain moves and kicks, you know. And I wrestled in high school. I was 3rd in the state of Florida when I wrestled in high school. And my 25-year-old son who's acting now, he won the New York State Championship at 220.
Okay.
He was a much better wrestler. He's a much better wrestler and actor than I ever was. But and trust me, you'll be seeing, his name is Tanner Zagarino. You'll be seeing him for sure. But but so I think wrestling, because when you wrestle, if you know about wrestling, you do chain moves, like you'll do 5 or 6 moves in a row. So after I had wrestled in high school and everything, my mind was sort of, I had a lot of pre-training for that, where I could remember, you know, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 moves in a row, exactly how it would go, because I did it so much through wrestling that when the fight scene would come, you know, there'd be a crescent kick, then there's an uppercut, then there's a hook, then you get pushed into the wall, then you break the guy's arms. So I have dyslexia. So it, like, on the stuff on the paper is hard. I have to memorize all my dialogue because of my dyslexia, because I could never glance it or read it fast enough. I had to know it and work a little harder than everybody else. But when it came to the fight scenes, the fight scenes came to me pretty easily.
How did you come to doing the outdoor movie business? I'm curious about that, because that sounds like a lot of fun.
You know, it's weird. We live in this small town in Long Island, and there's this place called Love Lane, and I went there and they had a movie. They had this big blow up screen and they had a movie. I'm sure you have them there and stuff. They had the big blow up screen in the movie and stuff. And the guy goes, I talked to the people, I go, where did you hire that guy? I go, well, you know, we brought him in from Connecticut, which is the state over, and we paid him $2,500 for one movie. I go, what? You got to be kidding me. But it was so much fun. And the people there, you know, I'm like you guys, you watch people watching a movie and they're like, kids look up and it's just like Wonderland. And I said, well, you know, I'll start this. And, you know, 15 years ago, I started it. Now I have 9 screens and 13 guys working. And I still go out a lot. I'll go out 5 nights this week. We got in from Brooklyn doing a movie last night. They closed the street in Brooklyn and we didn't get back till 1 in the morning. Okay. And then, you know, then swimming at 6 o'clock. So some of the days I'm not getting the sleep I would like, but it's just like you guys. It's just like when you love going to the movies and you love the VHS and you love that stuff. That's how it was when I saw an outdoor movie. I said this, and I started it sort of as a sideline, and now it's become a full-time business. So it's hectic. Like I live near the Hamptons in New York, which is probably one of the most wealthy places in the world right now. And so we go over there, like we have 2 movies over there tonight. So like July and August are absolute crunch time. We'll do 15, 16 movies in 1 week. And anywhere from a party where there's 8 people to 800 people. So when I started in New York, there was 2 companies. Now there's 15 companies. So
is it like a variety of programming as well that you put on, or is it specific ones that they hire you to put on?
Anything that's out on DVD, they have to pay a leasing fee to show the movie and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But you get some crazy stuff. The amount of money over in the Hamptons and stuff, you get stuff, your head would explode. I mean,
what would you screen? What would be your dream screening?
Oh God, I watched Rudy the other night, the football movie Rudy. I think one of the best sports movies I think that's been out there. So I mean, obviously like Maverick, Top Gun, I really like. So we did Top Gun 1 and then played Maverick right after it. So
that sounds like a good night.
Yeah, that is a good night. That was right. And if you're outside on a beautiful night, there's just nothing like it. If the quality is there, and now with the projectors and stuff, the quality is HD. It's really good quality, really good sound. So it's a lot of fun.
It also brings that community feeling as well, seeing as because of the pandemic and whatnot, people didn't get to spend time as groups. We'd spend it with family, but you didn't get to spend it as as part of something, a larger mass, say with like concerts or big movie screenings. Do you think that that's had an effect on drawing people to your screenings?
Well, I will tell you, during COVID, we doubled our income during COVID because it's the only thing you could do, because we did a lot of drive-ins.
Oh, distance, yeah.
So we use an FM.
Of course.
We would use an FM transmitter, and some nights we would have 150, 200 cars. Right. So like when Cuomo, who was the governor at the time, when he okayed outdoor movies, I would take 15, 20, 30 calls a day. It was crazy. You couldn't fulfill it all. I could have had 5 times as many screens. You couldn't fulfill it all. So now that's hopefully gone, I'm back down to reality.
It's nice to know that the desire for it is there, though, isn't it? That it's still, decades ago it was said that TV was going to kill cinema, and then home video was going to kill cinema, and now it's streaming and AI that may kill cinema. But it always seems to come through in some way, even in a different shape. It always seems to carry on in some way. What do you put that down to? What do you think that's the root of that?
Why the cinema's not as it was before, you think?
No, the longevity of film. It's just not, despite all the things that have said it's going to go away because of TV or anything like that, it's still around and it's still important to a lot of people. Why do you think that is?
I'm like you guys. I mean, I've just loved movies forever. And I think it's, people love the escapism, love the stories, and some people like horror movies, some people like action, but it's just the escapism. It will never go away. Even if AI takes it over, there's going to be creative people that make great product. I mean, you look at the stuff now on Netflix and some of these series. I mean, it's like watching, if you take some of the stuff off Netflix, one episode there would be if you put it 10 years ago, would be as good as any feature you ever saw.
Yeah.
I mean, the quality that these streaming services, Prime and Netflix, and the quality that they can produce weekly, for these TV series, it's just gotten better and better. I mean, and you see actors that are actors that would have never done TV before getting hooked up in these series. So
yeah,
I'm watching the
absolutely right.
What is the scroll I see at the bottom of the screen? You see the same thing about asking a relevant question?
Yeah, that's the people in the chat.
There's a live chat at the side of the channel.
Oh, okay, cool. I wish they would come across with a relevant question. I'd love to answer it.
Wow.
Come on, guys. I know there's a bunch of you watching. I can see you. Ask some stuff.
Lloyd Pretty Boy likes Night Siege a lot.
Yeah, Night Siege was a fun movie to shoot. Very fun. Very good. I mean, if anybody has specific questions, I'm sure.
Sheena says, "Hi, nerds."
You got that right.
Hello. There's no escaping that.
You got all the nerds here.
Because I was going to ask, you did Assassination. Did you get to meet Charles Bronson? Because
yeah, I did.
You're a Secret Service agent in there.
It was not one of my favorite meetings.
Oh, I knew it'd go one way or the other.
Well, I was on the, I only had a very small part, but I was on the set 2 or 3 days with him, and you know, I don't know what he was going through in his life, and I give everybody a pass, but he was not one of the friendliest guys I'd worked with. And I've worked with a lot of, you know, in small parts or bigger parts, I've worked with a lot of people that were, you know, but I was a huge fan of his. So it was a little disappointing because you want to sit and have a conversation and stuff, and it just sort of never transpired. But I was a huge fan.
You want your moment with that person.
Yeah, he was, you know, he was, when you're a kid growing up, Charles Bronson, and he was the toughest guy in the world, you know.
And yeah, what's the Spanish TV show? Marcus de Piaxo?
I have no idea.
Said you did 165 episodes on IMDb.
That's what you get for trusting IMDb.
That's what I thought. And I went in further, but there was not much information.
If I did 165 episodes, I wouldn't be doing movies at night. I can tell you that.
I thought it was something off about that one. But Bob McCall, there's an interesting one. Who was your favorite lady to work with? But it wasn't a wife, I guess.
That's hard, man.
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
Really is. I can't pick
anyone married.
After so many movies, I worked with so many leading ladies that were really, really good. I mean, even when I worked with Lana Clarkson on Barbarian Queen, she was just a sweetheart. You know, there was no romance there or anything, but she was just a sweetheart.
Because I was going to ask, is Meg Foster's eyes as nice as they look in the films?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Her eyes were just piercing. Oh, she was really, really good.
Amazing.
Yeah, she was really good. She was really fun to work with.
Convey so much with those eyes, like Fairuza Balk as well, out of The Craft.
Yeah,
with the famous eyes. Just someone that has such a distinctive feature. I love it when they are able to emote so much through that in films. Anything like that, though, as part of a performance like that, and with yourself in many ways, you can lift otherwise mediocre product up a notch just by your presence, just by a cast member's presence, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. You definitely try your best to do that. I mean, everybody on the like you were saying, on the low budget movies, everybody's working as hard as they can to make the best product they can, and everybody cares about trying to move their career in the right direction. So, you know, the action. I think a better movie would be trying to watch one of these films get shot, behind the scenes of these movies, because how you make things happen. And like, I'm sure when you did your movie on, you know, when your movie was a hiatus, it's the same thing. How can we make this work? And we do the same thing on our movies too.
Okay.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. I love watching not Back to the Future, behind the scenes stuff. Sorry, I've been up a long time. The kids got me up before 6 this morning.
I get it.
I love seeing behind the scenes stuff, to see all the effort that goes into it. And what I do find odd is when you see, say, pivotal scenes in something being shot, and when you watch the movie, you're lost in it. You're lost in, say, two characters in a room coming up with a solution to something that you've waited an hour and a half for them to come up with. And then you see the behind the scenes, and there's the guy with the boom, and there's like 40 people behind them. It's like, oh, that doesn't seem quite as dramatic there. So it's amazing that all that focus can just be put on those two people and utterly forget that there's a load of people making it happen around them. I do think there's some magic in that still.
Well, you know, it's like a love scene in a movie and stuff. You know, it's like,
oh god,
you're trying to be as natural, and you're going, this is how I would do it in my life. Is this how I do it? But you know, literally inches away from you is the boom and the cameraman and the guy tweaking a light. And you're going like, and then you're trying to, you know, be intimate, and those would be harder than anything. Trying to say, okay, is this? I don't want to act. I want to be how I'd really be in life. But it gets to the point where, you know, there's so many people right on top of you. It's going, oh my god, this is not but,
that's an entirely different kind of film.
Yeah,
but you know, for sure, you know, when you're married, you get to do a couple love scenes. Where's the harm?
Absolutely, it was for work. I promised it was for work.
But I had to do it. I have to do this in the script. I didn't add it in the script. It's in the script. I can't take the part and not do the part. So
one thing I would like to know is what was your opinion on how a lot of independent and low budget movies now are seeking crowdfunding for perks such as like credits or anything or things like that. I've contributed to a couple of like documentaries and got my name on IMDb and got in the credits and that sort of thing, and that's a real thrill. I was in a Troma movie with Lemmy and Stan Lee, which was interesting. Well, my name was, but it was nice to be a part of it. What's your thought on people trying to raise money through crowdfunding these days? Because I know it can be hard to get a proper budget for anything.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because I have a couple scripts that I still want to shoot that I own, and I've talked to different people about crowdfunding because like they were saying, well, the following that you had and stuff all over the world, you could probably crowdfund and put the movie together. Movies are so difficult to get made and so hard to get money for. Kudos to anybody that figures out any way to get the money to get it done, because it's so difficult. Anybody who gets a movie done, produced, and finished has done a hell of a job, because, but I think crowdfunding is a great thing, because what I worry about is, a project getting stolen because you put the script out there and now the script's everywhere. And the question is, does somebody change a little bit on the script and somebody's gone and made your movie? I have a couple scripts that have been done, I'm not kidding you, 15, 20 years that still read really well. And I've had great reviews on them. And the question is, I don't know enough about the crowdfunding. If you put it out there, do you lose your project? But I think crowdfunding is a great thing because you have so many fans all over the world. Like if I put something out and I crowdfunded and it was on a site that was, an international site, it would, there's definitely a way to raise money, but there's so many ways. And most films lose money. I mean, people are in films because they love it. When I raised the money for Spiker, I literally told, and these were people and friends and stuff, when I went out and raised the money at sort of like, I told them, I said, look, at word verbatim, because these were people that I knew. I said, this is like you taking your money and going to Vegas and putting it on red. If you can't afford to lose it and it rolls black, don't put your money in the movie. And they put the money, I mean, and people, some got their money back, some, but I'm saying that's what it's like. I mean, I'm sure the majority, you have to sell it all over the territories, and the distributors, I think it'll get different now. And even with AI and stuff, it'll get different. But, the distributors, you have a movie you made for a couple $100,000, and the distributors go to the Cannes Film Festival and go to 4 or 5 film festivals, and they got to make like 70, 80 grand back before you've seen a penny. So you're not getting the money back out of the movie. The distributors got to get their percentage out, all their costs to advertise it, all their costs to get the licensing and things like that. They get all their money off the top. So you could be 2-3 years down the road and not see a penny, and the movie could make $100 or $200 or $300,000, and you still don't see a penny because of distributors. So, that's really the key, is to be able to get a movie out. And now I think with streaming and stuff, it's a little bit different. But that, the distributors that get their money out first, they don't put any money in. They put some money in for advertising and artwork and stuff, but you need your errors and omission insurance. There's things you need that the distributor puts some money up for. And then they charge you a fee. Every film festival they go to, they have 20 films. They charge everybody a fee for that festival, like 10 grand a film. So
that's something else you've got to get back. And
before you've ever seen,
that's crazy.
Sometimes it's hard to get to zero. Zero never seems so far away.
Hollywood accountants. Exactly. Jason Grant asked, did you ever meet Van Damme?
Yeah, I did quite a few times. I went to his house in Chatsworth one time, and he was a gentleman. We got along really well. We had talked a couple of times about doing stuff together. It just never transpired, you know. And I met Dolph Lundgren through Stallone, and I was on Rocky 4 when he was in. I went on that set quite a bit and learned a lot, and worked with Dolph on his exercise video. And he was a good guy. He was a good guy. Massive guy, super coordinated, I mean, he had a lot of stuff going for him,
Did your spiky yellow haircut, was that copied from Rocky 4? Or?
No, we did that before, I think. Well, I don't know. That's a good question. What was first?
We're about the same time, I guess.
Yeah, they're pretty close to it. No,
Rocky 4 was about 86, wasn't it? Or was that my mistake?
That was coincidental.
I think you wore it better, though, rather than Dolph.
I think it's more iconic on yours.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, gentlemen.
Because you've been in some soaps as well, Dynasty and Santa Barbara.
Boy, I'll tell you, you must have your IMDb goes back quite a ways. Yeah, they were day parts and stuff. Soaps were good, soaps. I would have liked to have done more because it was a great training ground. Because some of my friends that were on soaps would, have to memorize 18 pages in one night to shoot the next day.
Right.
So that would. I wish I did more. That would be a great training ground to start with. And then you get more TVQ. You get known on TV, which was a very good way to make a living back then, because TV series. Now I don't know what TV series are doing because nobody's watching anymore.
That's true, yeah. Bob's got. Bob obviously knows Oliver Reed quite well. Was he ever drunk on the set of Revenger?
Oh, that's a good question. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oliver Reed was a character. He was a wild man. He was a character. He was all very, very nice to me, but he was a wild man. I'll put it to you that way.
My favorite Oliver Reed moment wasn't in one of his movies. And if you remember this, Gareth, he turned up on The Word. The Word was like a youth culture program that was on like very late on a Friday night and was very anarchic. It would have like they broke Nirvana in the UK, that sort of thing, and they had bands on. And they had a band on. I think it was Ned's Atomic Dustbin, and Oliver Reed, shirtless with a leather jacket on, a little worse for wear, you might say, got up and performed Wild Thing live with them on British TV, and it was so rock and roll it hurt. It was
oh, that's funny. He was quite the one to get through the evenings and get him to the set the next day. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay.
I worked with David Carradine.
Oh yeah,
from Kung Fu. Very, very, very interesting guy. Very serious. Very giving. He was really interesting. He was very, very professional and very, very soft spoken, but always knew exactly what he was doing and stuff. And, as a kid growing up watching Kung Fu, to work with Dave Carradine, I had a big smile on my face.
It must be nice to meet people and find that they're that calm and collected and pleasant.
Sure. Absolutely.
Like yourself.
Yeah, like you're funny.
Because I'm used to seeing you.
Thank you very much.
I'm used to seeing you shooting people and beating people up and sometimes with bits of your face hanging off.
I still got some of that in me.
Oh, okay. Got a question. How was it to work with David Bradley in Blood Warriors?
It gets, I hate to be redundant. I don't know when people ask that question. He was a good guy. He was professional, knew all of his stuff. He was a really good martial artist. So his fight scenes and stuff, he had done martial arts for years before that. And he had done a bunch of action films. We became friends, and we were both sort of, partnered through all this stuff, through the lower budget action films. There was probably a group of 8 or 10 of us that did a lot of action films, and I know every once in a while I get called from producers and stuff that want to get a bunch of us together and make sort of like, what was the Stallone thing where everybody,
Expendables.
To make an Expendable with all the B guys, for somebody to produce a movie with all the B action film, because foreign market still drives the lower budget stuff. So, they were thinking, it'd be great to do an Expendable with take 5 or 6 of the B action guys. You obviously do it at a lower budget, but it would still do very well foreign because every guy had their market that worked, So I always thought,
man, I would so see.
I always thought something like that would be really fun if somebody wanted to make, maybe the B Expendables to be Expendables.
I love that. Who would you have in it? I'd put in it like Gary Daniels and Olivier Gruner and people like that.
Sure, I knew Olivier Gruner. We worked out in the same gym, and he worked really hard too. But that group, myself, Gary Daniels, Olivier Gruner, there's probably 5 or 6 of us that could do it together.
Well, if I win the lottery this week, I'll be in touch.
There we go.
Gareth, if you do, can I write it? I'd love that.
I've got a writer. I'll produce it. And I get the
See,
style.
it's already underway, Frank. You've got it started.
Like ever, we just need the script. Somebody out there watching the podcast should write the script to be Expendables.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. That sounds awesome.
Right, I got one final question on my list. You played Godzilla in a film called Love Lines.
And this is so funny, is that Rod Amato, who was the director, and a lot of the people that had worked on Grease and stuff had worked on this, and it was a musical. So, when I moved to LA, it was like one of the first things I read for. And the guy who played Hammer, Todd Bryant, became a very, very big, he became Will Ferrell's stunt double. And we're still very good friends. And I thought it was so easy. I moved to LA. I get that part. It came out theatrically. It was in every theater in LA. I thought, oh boy, this looks easy. Then I realized how hard it was to get a theatrical movie. but it was still, it was still, that movie was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to go all of a sudden, you thought it, like I said, the process seemed so easy. Little did I know.
Yeah. But yeah, you're pretty muscular in that one, pretty built up, more than I'd seen before.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was always right around, always right around 200 pounds. And I work out, I work out probably 5-6 days a week, which I still do. So, when I got into wrestling sport, it was never like into bodybuilding stuff. When you got into sport, into wrestling and stuff, it sort of became part of it. So then it became part of your life. And then, when you meet Stallone and you're doing action films, they expect you to look a certain way. So you didn't want to, you want to deliver as best you could. I mean, I worked really hard. I remember I used to, like before Shadowchaser, I would jump rope with 5-pound wrist weights for a half hour. Just like things now, I'm going, how the hell could I have done that then?
I don't think I could have ever done that. So yeah. Right.
That is incredible. It clearly paid off though.
But yeah.
Is there a movie you would like to direct? Yeah, let's do the Expendables. I'll direct that. I would love to direct again. I really have a passion for it, and I'm very good at organizing and working with people and stuff. So, I would love to direct again. It has to just be the right project. Like I don't know if you remember the movie Stand By Me. I have a movie. Yeah. I have a movie that I want to shoot out here, Satellite Summer, which takes 3 young kids that are about 11 years old, and it's a character building, and they find a satellite out in the middle of the bay, and they're chased by sort of men in black. But one kid's family's going through a divorce, the other kid's father's in the war, and he's listening to war radio every day. So it's very much like that. And I've had great reviews. And so if I was going to, like you say, if I was going to do social funding or something, it would be for the script that I have called Satellite Summer. Nice. It's a great thing about a great coming of age thing about young kids. And like everything else, you need the thread that pulls through. So them finding the satellite and being chased pulls them through the whole movie. But it's like the tough kid the whole time, all the time wants to, he wants to shoot somebody. This guy has a BB gun and he kills a bird and the bird dies in front of him. And the kid's hysterical because he didn't realize, what it really was. So so when people ask, that movie is on my bucket list to try to direct. And the hardest part for me is my business is so busy and I run the whole thing is to find the time, But you're saying that crowdfunding, that is one I have spoke with people about putting out on crowdfunding and try to raise the money to do that. But I'd like to do it for a decent budget. To go out and do it on a shoestring again, where you can't shoot it the way you want to, is not something I'm interested in. I'd rather just pass.
Okay. Now, for that, you'd need some really beautiful landscapes and a lot of really strong scenery for that.
It was written for the scenery that you're seeing behind me. I don't know if you see Peconic Bay. That's the bay behind me. It's a little
yeah.
But it was written for out here, so already half the locations have been found, and it's really it's very much compared. It's very much like Stand By Me with the kids. So it's a really good story, and obviously there's some action and some boat chases and things in it, to liven it up. Gotta have that, right?
No androids then.
No,
I've only ever written one thing.
I don't know if the white hair is going to make them anymore.
I've only ever done one thing in a real location. I wrote a comic book script for AC Comics, not DC Comics, AC Comics in Florida. I wrote a bunch of stuff for them. I did one set here in Nottingham, underneath Nottingham Castle, because underneath Nottingham City Centre there is a network of caves and tunnels, like natural caves that have been there for like 1,000 years or so. And I'd love to shoot something in those caves.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like The Descent.
A lot of times you find locations and write a script around it. Because people have different access. I mean, some people have access to different locations and different things through their family or where they've lived and stuff. And then you say, wow, this kind of story could sit in this spot,
Yeah.
And it's all about it connecting with people that see it. And if it's connected with you in some way, then surely it will connect with audiences on a similar emotional level.
I like this one that just came up, Never Say Die. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because I saw Operation Delta Force recently, and it's real explosions, real cars smashing.
Oh, that was a big ensemble cast with Jeff Fahey and stuff. They put a lot of money into that. That was a lot of fun. Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Ernie. Yeah. I love Ernie Hudson.
Yeah, Ernie's the guy who never ages.
Yes, doesn't.
I noticed that in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I see him on a TV commercial or a TV series that looked like 30 years ago. Nothing changes.
But yeah, what do you make of CGI and its use in action films, like gun muzzle flares, blood and stuff like that. Is that what you like to get rid of, or do you think it's unnecessary to get the budgets down now?
No, I think you could do it too. And now with the CGI and stuff, you can really make it believable. You don't need to shoot all the live ammo and stuff like that because it gets super expensive when you're blowing through round after round, hundreds at a time.
Yeah.
So when I'm in South Africa, the army.
Yeah, and dangerous as well.
When I'm in South Africa, the armor who loads the guns and deals with the gun. I'm in South Africa, and like we're using this huge machine gun on a truck, and he's going like, I'm getting $2 per bullet. Shoot as much as you like. You know what I mean? I should have said, give me $100. I'll shoot 400 rounds right through because you don't let go and it just keeps going. And the producers have a hard time to swallow.
One man's going home very happy that day anyway.
Who's the star you always dreamed to work with? Well, that's a good question. I always, as a kid, dreamed to work with Robert Redford. So that's the one for me. Or Nick Nolte. Robert Redford or Nick Nolte would be two of the guys if I could work with would be great.
More blonde guys.
Oh, yeah, coincidental. Just like the body of work.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the last of those questions so far. You got any more, Andrew?
I've run out now. I've run out. So I finally stopped talking. I'm sorry.
You need some throat lozenges.
It's a really nice thing to be able to come and chat with you, and really appreciate you taking the time to do it. Because it's nice to show the appreciation for this stuff to the people that made it, and just give a shout out because it's I still love these things that you did, and it's lovely to see that you're still working, doing stuff.
I thank you very much, and hopefully there'll be some stuff in the future because I'm going to start auditioning again during the winter, and so hopefully there'll be some more stuff, and hopefully I'll raise some money to do Satellite Summer. And I thank you guys for your time, and I'm sorry for the delay.
No worries, it's been worth it.
No problem. Keep us posted with Satellite Summer. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Be safe, have your families safe, and hopefully we'll chat again soon. If you need anything, please let me know.
Oh, I will then.
Thank you. You got it.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ooh. That was good. Thank you for joining me, Andrew. Thanks for everyone.